chickens may be great, but baby goats are even better.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rock and Sea Homestead. This is Marcy coming at you, and just like Megan said, we are so excited because we have new baby goats on the way. We should have all three of our does are pregnant, and we should have baby goats from everybody in March. And this is our second time around on kidding with these particular does, and we've learned a lot from the first time that we're going to be able to put into practice this second time around. And that's what we're going to share with you today.
So one of the biggest takeaways from last year that we will use in our advantage this year is their personality changes the day that they go into labor. So for Maisie, it was more just she wanted to be around us a little more often, which isn't normally her personality. And then for Carmel, on the other end of the spectrum, was she stood outside and bleated all day long at the top of her lungs. And then Spice was kind of in the middle. She wanted to be around us and she was a little more vocal, but she was kind of a happy medium. And so that's something that we'll be able to take this year and better understand the actual day that they are in labor and be able to prepare that way.
Another thing we had heard a lot about before our goats had their babies last year is the ligaments kind of in the back part of their bodies, right in here. They become really loose, almost like they're not there anymore. And that is how you can tell they're ready. They're going into pre-labor and they're about ready to go into labor. The feeling is right back in this area. And I have to tell you, we felt those ligaments on the goats many, many times, but we didn't really understand what we were supposed to be feeling. We could feel them there and we were speculating, are they or are they not? By the time our third goat was ready to go, Carmel, she was super sassy and loud. So we had figured out by that point in time, that probably meant she was imminent. So we really paid more attention to how her ligaments felt here in the back. And by the time she was ready to go, we understood what that felt like. So now we'll know from the very beginning with all three of the goats, if we start to see that personality change, we can really come out and regularly start feeling for those ligaments right back in here, in this area back in the back of their body. It's so hard to just describe it or even hear it described. You just don't know until you've actually felt it. Then you're like, ah, yes, that's what it is. So I think that's going to be a great help to us this year as we're trying to be prepared for imminent birth of baby goats.
So one thing we did last year that was super helpful is we actually put baby monitors in the goat sheds. And they had a little screen that we could see from inside the house. And so we could watch and we could hear them when they were in these stalls, so we could see when they kind of separated themselves. And the nights that they went into labor, we could actually hear them starting to go into labor. And so we woke up and came out and just made sure that everything was going well. And so we're definitely going to be doing that again this year. That was super helpful, just being able to keep an eye on them without actually having to come out here, and then being able to know that they went into labor in the middle of the night was also very helpful, because last year was our first time and we hadn't really learned all of their signs and signals that they were in labor. So having those cameras were very beneficial.
Another thing that we added here in our goat sheds, originally these goat sheds had one single light bulb here and one over there on the other side. We really didn't think that was going to be enough light to help the goats if we were going to be out here after dark. So one thing that Lance did was install these long kind of shop lights, really super bright, on both sides. We got a set of them over here. We got a set of them on the other side. So when we're out here at night, these spaces are lit up about as brightly as rooms in our house are lit. This was great because, as it turns out, all three of our ladies decided to have their kids in the wee hours. Maisie was around midnight and Carmel and Spice were 2, 3 a.m. So it was dark, and having these lights so we could see what was going on was extremely helpful, and I highly recommend that. So one more thing, and that is space and separation. We have a big space in these two sheds that are joined together. We split this shed into two spaces, thinking we would keep one mom and their kids in one space and one mom and their kids in another space, and we had this kind of blocked, leaving this as more of an open space. And then we have this other side, so we thought, okay, and that's going to be our other space. As it turns out, that just was not enough space. once those babies started to grow up, we're like, this is going to be enough space for one mom and her goats. And so that was great. And then we're like, but they really need to have an outdoor space too. It was spring. The weather was starting to get warm. A few days it was real warm.
Yes.
And we're like, we can't keep them cooped up in here. We also weren't ready to start mingling them all together yet because like Carmel hadn't had her babies yet. And when she did, hers were so much younger than the others. And so we on the fly kind of built up an outdoor space, right?
Yes, so let's go take a look. We're back right out here. So we came out this door and the fence is gone now, but we had a fence that just lined right here that kind of separated because we had Spice's babies over here and Maisie's on the other side. So we had a fence right here and then we just kind of made a little fence on the perimeter so that way they could just come right outside from their given stalls and have a little outside area that they could see each other through the fence. So we kind of introduced them that way, and then they had some outdoor space to get some fresh air and just to hang out in the sun. And then we had gates at the front so that way they couldn't get in and out unless we opened those gates for them.
Right. And that worked out great for a while because Carmel was a solid month behind everybody else. So when Carmel was ready to have her babies, we're like, ugh, we need a third space. So let's show you what we did for that. So here's what we did, and we did it on the fly. So here's something we really learned, and what we really truly advise to other people is plan out your separation spaces a little bit earlier. We were building this separate space days before Carmel had her babies. Like just in a mad rush to get it up. We built that shed over there, we built that shed and we built this fence, and we had to kind of do it quickly on the fly because Carmel was imminent and we needed the extra space. Maisie and her two rambunctious boys needed more space. So we built out this space for Maisie and her little guys, and that way we could use the space down on the other end for Carmel. And that's what we did. Now, as it turns out, this space has been great. We've added these hoop areas here that you see because when we were raising up our meat chickens in the fall, we used this space for them, and it was really great. So having this space separated like this has actually helped us in several different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we also put the babies over here.
Yes. We let the moms out into the main area just to get a little break, and we put all the babies in there and they'd run around and they'd play and they'd get to socialize with each other, and the moms got a little bit of a break, and so that was also really helpful.
Yep, that ended up being really beneficial. So now we know, and before they actually start having their babies, we'll make sure we build out that space down there. And we also know we need to extend the roof covering over all the way to the end because we had some crazy blue awning just kind of stapled to to keep some shade and also protection from the rain, because in March, April, May it can be pretty stormy here in central Oklahoma. So we needed to have that covered, and we'll be better with that, prepared for it this time around. So we got about a month and a half left to kind of get all those things sorted out, but we know what we need to do.
Absolutely.
So there you go. That's what we learned. Well, we learned a million other things.
Yes.
But that's kind of what we learned about what needs to be done in preparation for having your babies, your baby goats. There's a million more things we learned as we went along once the babies were born. That's a whole nother video.
Yes.
We'll share that with you as the time gets a little bit closer. In the meanwhile, we're real excited.
Absolutely.
About having more baby goats. The only one that's not in the mix for baby goats this year is Nutmeg, because she's a little too young. So, but maybe the next year we'll have 4 pregnant goats, and won't that be exciting?
Yes.
So if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and leave those down below. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, now's a great time. Just hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you'll know every time we upload a video. We appreciate you watching all the way from the beginning to the end. We really do appreciate that, and give our video a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind. And thanks for coming back, and we hope that we'll see you on the next one from our homestead to yours. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye.